Hello everybody, thanks for popping into the channel. Today it's just a short video. Just want to talk about Pat Hennen, who passed away in recent days. I want to talk about his achievements, and also there were many rumours about his achievement and his accident while he raced at the TT here on the Isle of Man. So if you want to join me, stick around, and I'll see you in a few seconds, okay? Anyway, Pat Hennen is a name many of us have heard. Many of us know of his achievements. He was the first American to win a Grand Prix. He passed away, as I say, a few days ago at the age of 70. But he was a talented Californian dirt track racer. And then he switched to road racing. And his success there made him a legend. You will, or people who can look back at the, let's say, the 70s, he had a lot of battles on track with Barry Sheene, who was a good friend of his, of course. But yeah, you'd always see the number 3 and the number 7 of Barry Sheene together fighting it out on the tracks. And he became the first American racer when to win a Grand Prix when he won at Imatra in 1976. The FAM didn't have a copy of the American national anthem to play that day. Were they not expecting him to win? But anyway, the point was they didn't have a national anthem to play for him as he stood up on the podium after his first win. It'd be a bit disappointing. And when Kenny Roberts went to Europe in 1978, he thought that his main rival for the title would be number 7, Barry Sheene, of course. But instead, it was Sheene's teammate, Pat Hennen, that Roberts was racing against most weekends. And of course they were on the Suzuki RG 500s, the XR14 bike, 2 strokes of course. And tragedy is an overused word in racing today, I suppose. But Hennen's career-ending tragedy at the TT here in 1978 can only be viewed as a definite tragedy. Even without the horrible backstories as to why he was forced to race the TT when he was fully capable in 1978 of winning the World Championship. In fact, he and Roberts were separated by only a few points in the championships when Hennen was forced to race, as we know, the ultra dangerous, as it was viewed upon and still is, TT. That's my dog barking. No, show some respect, Gucci. Sorry about that. Hennen suffered a major traumatic brain injury in a fast crash in the TT near Bishop's Court just after Kirkmichael, between Kirkmichael and Ballaugh on the TT course. And over the years a number of stories were circulated as to why Hennen crashed, and the most popular one at that time was he was struck by a bird. And I always remember Hutchie being struck by a seagull as he was approaching the top of Bray Hill some years ago, not many years ago, in fact. And people who have their lunch, buy chips from a van, it attracts seagulls. And if you're by the side of the road, side of the circuit, seagulls are going to be very close to the circuit. And I remember Hutchie hit in the visor by a seagull, and he carried on, went round the lap. So was it a seagull or a bird that caused a blow to his helmet and fell off at high speed? After, there's been numerous bird strikes, Hutchies, and of course Phillip Island. Oh, Phillip Island, loads of seagulls, if they are seagulls, but birds around that place. And over the last 20 years, there's been many bird strikes, but they didn't cause an injury like Hennen at a high speed fall off. So, unless it was a pterodactyl, and there were no pterodactyls about in 1978. So Hennen doesn't have any memory at all of the crash. But the other person involved was Tom Heron. Did they collide? It's believed they did. Tom Heron died in 1979. Years later, an eyewitness came forward, and this is years later, and said Heron and Hennen collided, forcing Hennen to crash. This is 1978, and investigations into the accident didn't really do that very much until years later, when somebody, an eyewitness, saw what happened and came forward. These days, of course, the police, when there's an accident, particularly when there's a fatality, the roads are closed for hours, more than a day, more than 24 hours sometimes, to investigate the circumstances as to what happened. Pat Hennen, he did recover following his accident, but he never raced again. Like so many, he was a very different person after suffering a major brain injury, and it took 3 years for him to walk unaided. And he had a small group of friends who helped and protected him. And in an early 2000s interview, Hennen's brother Chip just pushed aside any of the rumours or well-placed stories regarding why Hennen was forced to race at the Isle of Man, or the inter-team relationship between Pat and Barry Sheene. But rehabilitated to a degree, and with his racing posters still on his boyhood bedroom walls, Hennen went to work at a major airline. And after leaving that job, he worked for Motion Pro. Motion Pro owner Chris Carter was part of the nucleus of people around Hennen, helping him to navigate life after his life-altering crash. He was able to perform menial tasks, and of course he was thankful for the job. For a time after his crash, Pat wanted to get away from racing. He said he wasn't bitter, he just didn't want to talk about it. People are like that. I know many people who never race again, but they will never talk about it. Never want to talk about it. But he warmed up to his racing again later in life, and was inducted into several Hall of Fame organisations, and even did a lap in the back of a truck on his Suzuki 500. He was able to talk about the politics of the Suzuki team. Now here we have politics coming into it, and this is where we'll discover what made him race at the TT in 1978. But just to continue, he was able to talk about the politics of the Suzuki team, but he never laid blame where most suspected it would be placed when talking about the circumstances of how he was pressured into racing at the Isle of Man TT. Suzuki UK pulled his GP transporter, but said he could have it back if he raced the Isle of Man TT for them. Without a transporter, he wouldn't have the support that teammate Barry Sheene had, and Hennen's mechanics would be back to working out of a glorified van. So he raced at the TT, his last race. A race that finished his career, and would have still been going for many, many years after that 1978 TT hadn't he crashed. But during that TT, he did actually be the first racer to lap in under 20 minutes. A lap in under 20 minutes. So that's something in the history books to remember Pat Hennen and his relationship with the TT. He was the fastest and he was the most experienced American rider at the time of his crash, and he ended up disabled and struggling after being forced to race the Isle of Man TT because of dirty team politics. It's truly a tragedy. What can we say? If you're still here, thanks for hanging on in. And I was quite surprised to learn about what exactly happened. I didn't know until recently, but yeah, a tragedy indeed. 70 years of age, at least he didn't die in a motorcycle accident, but his life certainly changed because of a motorcycle accident. What can we say? Rest in peace, Pat. Take care, everyone. That's all I need to say today.